Anya Dula. Welcome back to the Doing Motherhood podcast, where we talk all things Black mothers today. All right, y'all. I got my first Ask Anya letter, and I'm so excited because this is what I've been waiting for. I want to encourage you to send your letters, send your questions. Maybe this will inspire you. So let's see. Really quick before I get to the letter, I just want to give you a little bit of background story on myself and why the Ask Anya segment is so important to me, and why I'm looking forward to it so much. So when I was little, reading the Sunday paper was my jam. I know that sounds maybe a little bit odd, but it was. The Sunday paper was full of all kinds of stuff, probably from about age 7 to I was 11 or 12, that I was like hardcore every Sunday in the paper. And my favorite parts of the paper were the Dear Abby and Dear Ann columns, and then also the comics. And if you're not familiar with Dear Abby and Dear Ann, they were like these old ladies in the newspaper. They had like the big puffy white hair. And the two of them were sisters, and they would just, they were columnists in the sense of answering questions that people had. A lot of their questions were more like etiquette kind of based. So I learned through them how to relate to people and like what was appropriate to wear, and what were the inappropriate things that you didn't want to say when you, not that I was at anybody's dinner party at 10 years old, but it was important to me to know that in case I got invited to a dinner party, I would, I'd be able to step in the room and have the right conversation. These are the things I thought about as a kid. I don't know. So in addition to that, in addition to those segments, I was also really drawn into the op-ed section. I wasn't always sure what the full breadth of the conversation was about, but what I did like about it was that those writers were able to help me understand something that I had no clue about in a way that made sense to me, even at that very young age, right? And so it was just that turning a situation, the skill of being able to turn a situation in a way that people from, I don't know, like people from everywhere could understand what that situation was. So the Sunday paper was my thing. The comics were also my absolute favorite. So that's really what I was there for. Everything else in it was just the fun stuff. So that is what brings us to this Ask Anya column. I will do my best to give an unbiased and non-judgmental some insight into whatever the question is that you have, or whatever particular situation you might be mulling over. Sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective, one that is unbiased, one that is not prejudiced, one that does not have any emotional attachment to what's happening. So, all that to say, let's talk about this first letter that I have. So the letter reads, "Hey Anya, I have this problem with my in-laws. I'm in an interracial marriage. I'm African American and my husband is Mexican American. Over the years, I've realized that his family, while kind and welcoming to me, don't quite know what to do with me. They are straight-laced, devout Catholic who follow societal rules. I've experienced questions and criticisms about my hair and my chosen off the beaten path lifestyle, and even my fashion choices, which are all deeply connected to my cultural and spiritual identity. Now I am pregnant, and what felt like small cultural misunderstandings before now feel like actual attacks on my personhood, which makes me wonder how my child will be accepted by his own family. How do I address this with them before my son is born? I don't want the fight, but I can't keep stuffing it until I blow." That's a big one. This is a tough one. So first, congratulations on your pregnancy. Congratulations to you and your family for this new life that's coming. And I can certainly understand the urgency with the new baby on the way when it's everything that makes you you, that you feel is being questioned, and possibly maybe not being accepted. That's kind of the sense I'm getting from this letter, that the overall concern is that if you're not accepted by your husband's family, then will your child be accepted, or will your child have to, also deal with some of these microaggressions that you're facing in those dealings with your husband's family. So I think we have to look we look at this as a matter of setting boundaries, one, and then also setting the tone for how you expect to be treated. And I think sometimes we think that, like, when we set the boundaries, that also informs people how we expect to be treated, but not always. Setting the boundary is saying, hey, don't cross this line. This is where you and I, right? Like, this is the separation between you and I, and you need to give space for who I am. And I also need to give you space for who you are. But then we need to set the tone for how people are actually going to receive, right? And what action they should then follow up with beyond those boundaries being set. So I think the first thing is having a conversation with your husband so that the two of you are first on the same page when you do go to address his family. I don't think you should be addressing his family on your own. The two of you need to stand and look like a united front, because what that communicates to everyone else is that there's no division between the two of you. So what you feel is for him to protect. And sometimes that can be hard when when that means that it's his family that he has to address, right? But when we're creating our own families, that is the role that we each have to take about our partners. And so that's the first thing. Addressing you two getting on the same page and how this is going to be addressed, and then addressing his family together as a united front. Then in the addressing, the first conversation is boundaries. Boundaries need to be set about what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. Don't touch my hair. Don't touch my hair. Don't talk about my hair. Don't judge my hair. Don't make suggestions about my hair. Play Solange if you have to for her, right? No, but seriously, a lot of times people don't know. This is what we're coming to understand, right? This is what, in the last year of all these race relation conversations and how do we learn better? How do we teach better? All of that. It's in these moments, which is hard when you're the only person, but it's in these moments that other people begin to learn and grow. And so they don't know. They haven't learned, right? I imagine that if this is an issue, they are probably people who have not had a lot of exposure to Black people, or at least not Black people who present like you present, right? And so there's some learning that they have to do. So setting that tone, setting those boundaries, so that they are aware of what's right? Give them rules of engagement. Let them know who you are and that you will not be moved. And then I think the second thing in setting that tone becomes holding them to an ongoing education of sorts, right? So setting up almost an education plan for them. And I want to make very clear here that I don't believe it is the work. This is just my own opinion, but I don't believe it needs to be your work. The person who has been transgressed, if you will. I do believe it is the responsibility of, in this case, your husband, right? But if others are also relating to this, it is the responsibility of the person whose family members are not very well educated to hold their family to an ongoing education, okay, about what that is. So does that mean, people need to watch documentaries? Do we need to suggest books? Are these conversations that he needs to have with his family a week before you all go visit the family, or they come to visit you, right? To reinforce those boundaries so that before you're in their presence, that we can make certain that this is going to be a safe space and safe visit for you, so that you're not feeling all those microaggressions or experiencing those microaggressions, right? It's just a little tighten up. It's making sure that people are doing the work that they say that they're going to do in effort to ensure that you are always feeling emotionally, mentally, and spiritually safe within those interactions with his family. So that's my opinion on the matter. I hope that is helpful. If you have an opinion other than that and you would like to share, join us on Instagram at doing_motherhood_podcast. Let's talk about it. Check y'all later.